The Terrible End of Simon and Lynne, an unspeakable horror involving monstrous abominations. Once upon a time in a small forested village there lived a simple man named Simon. He was a kind and gentle soul who was quiet and kept mainly to himself. He was a bit of an introvert, but he still had a few close friends. One of Simon's best friends was a woman named Lynne. Simon and Lynne would often do things together, like hunting, fishing, and exploring the forest. They grew very close over time and eventually fell in love. But one day, everything changed. One evening, Simon and Lynne were out exploring the woods like they usually did when suddenly they heard a strange noise coming from deep in the forest. A chill ran down their spines as they both knew something wasn't right. The noise seemed to be getting closer and closer. Simon grabbed Lynne's hand and they started to run. Suddenly, out of the darkness, a monstrous creature appeared. It had 4 powerful legs and a huge head with large, glowing eyes. It was the most terrifying creature either of them had ever seen. The creature let out an ear-splitting roar that echoed through the trees. Simon and Lynne were so scared they could barely move. Suddenly, more creatures appeared out of the darkness. There must have been at least a dozen of them. The creatures started advancing on the 2 of them. Simon and Lynne weren't sure what to do. They were paralyzed with fear. As the creatures got closer, Simon and Lynne had to make a decision: fight or flight. In a moment of desperation, Simon and Lynne ran as fast as they could. They ran and ran until they were exhausted. But no matter how fast they ran, the monsters still seemed to be getting closer and closer. Finally, the 2 of them stumbled upon a cave. They ran inside and huddled together in the corner, hoping that the monsters wouldn't find them. They cowered in the dark as the monsters roared and screamed outside the cave. The creatures searched for hours, but eventually gave up and left. Simon and Lynne were relieved, yet still felt uneasy. They knew the monsters could come back at any time. The next morning, the 2 of them cautiously made their way out of the cave and back to the village. They were both relieved to be back safe and sound. But little did they know, their nightmare had only just begun. For days, months and eventually years, the monsters continued to haunt the forest. Everywhere Simon and Lynne went, they were followed by the beasts. They were always in the shadows, waiting. Finally, one night the monsters seemed to have had enough. As Simon and Lynne were walking through the village square, the monsters surrounded them. The 2 froze in terror as they heard the creature's blood-curdling screams. The monsters grabbed the 2 of them and dragged them into the woods. There, they were brutally tortured and killed. The villagers searched for days, but all they found were the mangled and mutilated bodies of Simon and Lynne. It was a horrific sight, one that would haunt the villagers for the rest of their lives. To this day, no one knows what happened to the monsters that destroyed Simon and Lynne. But if you listen closely on a still night, you can still hear their screams echoing through the forest. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like and tell us what you think in the comments. And of course, don't forget to subscribe.